My name is Monika Walker, and I'm here today with Coach John from Conflict Evolution. And I'm here because I'm collecting stories on thought leaders and people who are creating positive change. So thank you, John, for coming today to meet with me. And we want to hear a little bit about your program, Conflict Evolution. Can you tell me what kinds of changes is Conflict Evolution making for people?
Well, first of all, Monika, thanks for dropping into the center. I'm really busy and coming to the center here at the Wright Training Center where we teach our Conflict Evolution program. I feel really at home here because I think 700 people have graduated from our program, and I'm really happy that we are changing the thinking and changing the world around us. And it really connects with my need to connect to humanity and making sure people have healthier, less stressful lives, and they're more engaged, both with friends, their family, and workers around them. So thank you for making the efforts to come in. And I guess my partners and I really hope and really believe we're creating the opportunity for me to make the choice for change.
Right, right. So what is it that brought you to creating Conflict Evolution?
Well, thank you, and great question, because it kind of snuck up on me. And I've been a coach since '92, worked very diligently for about a dozen years in relationship coaching, and we can agree that in a lot of relationships have conflict. I would say that relationships are messy, people are messy, and conflict is messy, and they all come together quite definitively in relationships. And I went through a number of evolvement and process of how we might change the strategies, do this and that, and over a period of 10 years, it really started to feel like more of topical ointment, that getting to the deep structure of what really supported, kept the conflict going, which I would see year after year, and that it was important we really unearth the root cause, the root part of where conflict evolved from, and had a process that would let it dissolve almost on its own through a process of conversational change. So just like you and I are sitting here, we could do this at Starbucks. And if you're a Timmy's fan, we could do it at Tim Hortons. And sit back and engage. Perhaps we're sitting on the dock that I love to do down at the lake house. Sitting on the dock, our feet dangling in the water, and just kicking the water around with our toes and getting a sense of connection. And to that end, it snuck up on me, that idea that the change needed to be in simple, clear, clean language that was conversational. It wasn't one more thing to remember, one more 7 to do this and 7 to do that. We could just relax and be who we are. And we did, because I think we need a safe process. We did put down 5 areas to touch on, 5 steps, if you like, so we could I could play with my fingers like when I was a kid in school to check off, like little check marks. The first one was, what's the story I'm making up? I mean, I read stories to my kids for years, Love You Forever, all the Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall stories and lots of nursery rhymes. So we're making up stories our whole life. And I started to realize that we hold the story of anything in a story time that we make up. And they aren't much different than fairy tales, but we believe them to be bigger. We believe them to be more true. And there's a lot of truth in fairy tales. And my kids they still challenge me. In fact, my brother on his 74th birthday sang to me, because he was so happy I connected with him. He's going through cancer. He sang to me his favorite prayer that he offers up as a nursery rhyme. It's the Irish prayer, the wind at my back. Most people know that out there. And so it's amazing how we hold story to share with others from the heart or from the challenge we have. It's just that statistically, in the stories we make up, only about 10% is true. And that left a lot of room for us to make up a little different story, engage the story in different ways.
Can I ask you something? You said something earlier about how conflict evolution really gets to the root of what's there for people. Can you talk about how story and observing story helps people grasp that?
Great question. I'm glad you got me focused, because I can just wander around. I love this so much. It's like an apple pie. I don't know whether to eat from the inside out or the outside in. But I can tell you that the root is that we hold both the challenge and the solution inside our cellular and muscle body. We hold it inside. You might call it a feeling, in our feeling body. If we believe we hold it only in our head, we've got an itty-bitty shitty committee, we've got a lot of conversations going on, and it's very muddled. It's unclear, it's confusing, it's annoying, it's frustrating. But when we connect inside to our root, the root chakra, or in our inner body, and really connect to the sensations, the feelings in our body, it really edits down to the one element, the one thing that's feeding or driving what we call conflict.
So how is it that we identify or name or focus in on the particular feelings from a sensation in the body?
Could you say that again, how we identify?
How do we identify the feelings? You said we're finding these feelings in the body. How is it that that happens for people?
Well, that is a beautiful question. A lot of guys I work with haven't answered well into their 30s. And it's a challenge, because I have had a lot of clients, and I've lived there myself, so I'm a great coach because I've walked that path of you deny your feelings. I won't say you just jump into it and you ignore your feelings. You can cut your finger. I got scars here. You ignore them because guys don't get in touch with a feeling. You just walk through it and by it, and that's a disconnect that I became a master at. In some ways it was culturally the thing to do. In other ways, it what protected me from ever having to stop long enough to consider the pain. Unfortunately, our body doesn't forget the pain. Our cellulars and the energy in our body holds on to that energy, and it never dissipates. And over time, we build the armor around it a little thicker and a little heavier, to a point where we forget that we protected ourselves from that, and we're not really connected. So it's a great question. How do we connect with the feelings? We need to start little by little peeling off the old scale like a fish skin. We need to unearth how it is we buried it so deep inside sometimes. And people will come and say, well, I just have a fog. I just have a white, it's black. I can't see it. Because they've so brilliantly covered it up, masked it, they don't even see it themselves anymore. Right. And little by little, we can kind of just track in our body. We can maybe get a sensation like I do when somebody says something that upsets me, my tummy will start to get really nervous. And if somebody says something that challenges my identity or about a relationship, I may even feel my heart start to beat faster, like really, or maybe I'm really feeling, wow, I can hardly speak it, like it just takes my breath away. And maybe I just feel totally not comfortable. And more as I track that, I start to identify, I have feelings about that, and I haven't given voice or expression to it. I've never declared it. I remember the first time I said to my father, no. Not no like no bad, but just no thank you. That was a big step, to say no. And it's been a long journey to start to say, I have a feeling about this. And sadly to say, it came rather late in life. But I was challenged because I was blessed with a number of teenagers who wouldn't take no for an answer.
So how did you get from this place of, okay, I've identified a feeling, and this feeling for myself, or a feeling I'm witnessing maybe in somebody else, within this conflict, how do I take that then? How do I transform that? Maybe identifying the feeling is the first step. How do I get past it, though? That's where we usually get stuck.
Great question. I've been stuck many times, but I had the blessing maybe 10 years ago to pick up a book by Marshall Rosenberg on what he called nonviolent, and I call compassionate communication. And through the community of NVC, nonviolent communication, a whole lot of words have been given out there to define a vocabulary that talk about needs, primary needs that all of us have. And I've taken that work, and thank you to nonviolent communication community, and I've spent time in the trainings and made a cheat sheet out for people to start being able to identify what the needs, so they have some place to reflect. And how I know that, Monika, is that I had a very limited vocabulary of real needs. And when I started to expand my vocabulary, I felt that that feeling was quelled or more quieted or more sourced or more supported as I got really clear on what was the need that would distill that or satisfy that. And so we hand out a sheet in our class that probably has 50 different needs on it. And when people read them to themselves while they're holding on to that feeling, it just seems naturally the feeling is sort of quiet. So thank you to nonviolent communication, compassionate communication, that we now have a greater vocabulary for people like myself who grew up without a very deep vocabulary around what I need. It wasn't even in the vocabulary that you needed something. So that's how I know we're making the next step from being stuck.
Right. So we identify what is the need that's connected to this feeling.
Absolutely.
So once we have established that, where do we go from there?
Well, and that is the fifth step in our process. It's what is the request I'm going to make of myself. Now that I need to be heard, need to be understood, need to be acknowledged. Maybe my worthiness is at stake. I'm a pleaser by tradition. Maybe I've been overly pleasing and I pleased someone else and didn't please myself. Little things like that. We all have our coping strategies. So at this point I say, what do I need to ask for myself? Maybe it's like the first time I said no to my father. Maybe it's the first time I said yes to something I really believed into it. I know my biggest one was I said no thank you. Not now. Not because I never wanted to do it, but I was the ultimate person who wanted to be there for everybody. And one day I said no. And I started to realize that my time had some personal value, and it could be that simple. So it's making a request of self. And then I might go and say, Monika, no, I'm not showing up, Sarah, to move your dang furniture. I hate moving furniture. But I'll buy you a glass of wine at the end. I'll bring over a bottle and a couple steaks. I'm not moving furniture. And already, I bet you can see it in my face, I'm relieved because I hate moving furniture. And I get called because I got a truck. And that's about how simple it can be, is to identify what I need and make honest, clean, clear requests of myself and then others.
So you're talking right now, you just use a very practical, simple example of a very tiny conflict about moving furniture. What about, where does this really make a difference for people? You know, where are people's hearts being transformed? Because I've experienced that in your workshops, and I know there are others who have too. When it gets to stuff that really, really matters and is affecting our ability to be efficient in our lives, our ability to connect with the people we love, to enjoy ourselves, why does this process matter so much?
Well, this isn't a test drive, our life. Every day, as Einstein said, is either a miracle or it's not. And it's not a miracle when we're caught up in sensations, energy that just is off-putting, that we feel sad by, we feel challenged, we feel unhealthy, we don't feel whole, we don't feel on purpose, we don't feel the meaning our life is real. We may not even feel loved. We may not feel enough. We may not feel our partner's hearing us. And so is that important? I believe we're relationship beings. I'm a relationship. I love being in a relationship. I've not been always the best relationship partner, but I have loved being in relationships because it's brought me face to face with myself and my craziness to say, wow, a subtle shift here. So it's like this coffee cup. I could be balancing it on my knee, and it's a little tricky if I get distracted, but if I put it over here where it's safe, I know the tea is still there for me to drink, but I'm not trying to balance it and juggle it, stick handle it, because I'm not paying attention. And that's just like conflict. When I can put it over here and manage it in a simple step and say, I'm going to take that issue that I made a story up. Oh, Monika, she didn't really come to find out the truth about it. She just wanted to write a nasty article that we're not doing the good stuff. And oh my God, you know, I'm going to be tongue-tied. I'm going to spill my tea over my pants in front of everybody. Oh my gosh, you know. And I keep making up. Anybody ever made up stories like that? And it's true, they start to cloud. But in that one simple action of taking it from a balance point over here and moving it to a choice point, I move it over and set it down in a safe way, and then I can say, wow, I didn't really hear you that clearly. I'm sorry. When I hear now the way what you've been missing in our conversation, that you really wanted to know how this makes a difference, because making a difference, I'm sensing, is a big part of your life. And it's a big part of ours. And I'm sorry I didn't communicate that, because dang girl, that's what this is. I get a chance to make a difference so that others can make a difference. It's my kind of definition of humanity. It's my definition of being in service to a world around me. And service is big. How is it important? For me, it's the core of us. Being in community, being connected, being in gratitude, being in appreciation, living the miracle.
I wanted to ask you, in what you're saying, that you've been sharing about this process and how it will work for us. How has it affected you personally? How has this process and working through conflict in this way been powerful for the changes that have happened in your life?
Well, I don't know if this is appropriate language, but it screwed with my life. I mean, you get to a point when you're doing this process where you don't rise up to a greater knowing. You get rid of so much chaff off the wheat, so much of dust off the furniture, you get down to a point where there's no room for any more lies to tell. You get down to a point of purity, a point of cleanness, a point of focus where there's just the truth, not maybe the big true, but all the little T-truths that honor you and honor the relationship going on. And in that place, when you're not telling any more stories, you have the opportunity to be authentic, to be real, to be present. And at that point, there's an automatic transformation. It's called presence. It's called the way you're in relationship is really that connection of divine thought, divine mind, and divine spirit. It's consciousness, it's seeing clearly, it's awareness, it's connection in your presence then brings you into the flow in relationship. It's beyond thinking about it. It's the feeling from the heart that enables you to be so present in a situation that the judgments, the blaming, the assessment, the comparison, the woulda, shoulda, couldas fall away because you're just looking with grateful appreciation of that people are generally doing the best they can. And that if I can expand the awareness, if I can expand their skill set a little bit, just maybe one thing, it makes all the difference. And people are safe. They don't feel attacked. They feel that I care enough just to hang with them. Because I've been in that pain. I've been down there. I've had to look at my own stories. I've had to look at my own untruths. And it's not easy. But having gone through that, when I have the privilege of being in front of the room or meeting with people, I hear them, I feel them. I'm connected. Because I've lived their story. And I now have this very unique process, which is only 10 words. Mrs. Bradley, my school teacher, would be proud of me. 10 words. And that's it. That's how it is. It's that simple. It makes me laugh. Because I'm a talker. I'd use 100 words if 10 would do, because it's so much fun. So imagine the thing I loved most I had to give up to get there. That's kind of like conflict. I had to give up loving the conflict I was creating to get the attention I needed, to get the energy I needed, to get the direction I needed, to get all my needs met. I was doing it through conflict. And now I can do it with love. Now I can do it because I really care, and I do.
Thank you for this time you've taken today. Is there anything else that you want to tell people about conflict resolution?
Just give it a chance. It's a practice. It's like learning arithmetic. It takes a bit of time. You got to trust that everyone's enough, that you're enough, and that if you just practice with it, you just keep getting better. It is a practice. Conflict evolutionary practice. It's not perfection. People are messy. Conflict is messy. We're all a little bit uncertain at times. Just stay connected and in the practice. Thank you, Monika, for coming. Appreciate you being here today. Awesome.
Thank you.